Before the college entrance examination, the school beauty mistakenly thought I had a crush on her. She publicly tore up my test paper, mocking me. When it comes to relationships, you shouldn't just think about others' qualities. You also need to consider your own standing. I remained silent. To them, I was just an idiot who couldn't even score 200 points. But what they didn't know was that I had a system that allowed me to exchange scores for health, with the goal of saving my first love. On the day of the exam, my first love finally started to recover, and I unbound the system. Later, I entered Capital University as the top student, and the school beauty panicked. Chapter 1. The last day of mock exams. When the scores were released, all the classmates rushed into the hallway to check the results. While I just sat at my desk, the surroundings were noisy. I lowered my eyes and took out a piece of draft paper to work on the big problems assigned by the teacher last night. Before long, students who had seen the rankings began to trickle back into the classroom. Their gazes towards me were filled with unabashed ridicule. I could faintly hear their words. Diego is at the bottom again this time, with a total of just over 150 points across 6 subjects. He's really something. I could probably score higher just by stepping on my answer sheet a few times. Well, it's good. Seeing him so unfazed makes me more confident about the exam. I ignored their voices and continued working on the chemistry problems. When they saw I had no reaction, they probably got bored and soon returned to their seats. Just as I was focused on my work, my deskmate suddenly stood up and pointed at my drawer. "Hey, what's this?" Before I could see clearly, he pulled out a light blue hairpin. I froze for a moment, reached out my hand, and, for once, lost my temper. "Give it to me. That's my stuff." But my deskmate didn't return it. Instead, he laughed and tossed it to someone else. The light blue hairpin was passed around among a few people, and I grew anxious, even wanting to snatch it back. My attitude seemed to excite them even more. Usually, I was bullied because of my poor exam scores, but I had always remained silent in the face of their teasing. Seeing my strong reaction made their expressions turn gleeful. At that moment, my deskmate suddenly scratched his head. "Hey, didn't Camila lose a hairpin a while ago? It was also light blue. She was even looking for it on the school walls." "Diego, you didn't steal her hairpin because you have a crush on her, did you?" The class fell silent for a moment before the students began to whisper among themselves. Camila was the school beauty and had always been the center of attention. Before the class bell rang, I managed to get the hairpin back. I didn't explain that it wasn't Camila's but carefully cleaned it and placed it in the compartment of my backpack. But I didn't expect that before the first class in the afternoon, Camila actually came to our classroom door. I thought she had something to discuss, so I didn't pay attention to the door. In the next second, Camila walked straight towards me. When she reached my desk, Camila looked down at me from above. "I heard, you like me." Chapter 2. As soon as Camila entered the classroom, all the classmates' gazes glued onto us. After all, Camila was not only beautiful but also came from a wealthy family and consistently ranked first. On the other hand, I was notorious for being at the bottom of the grade, scoring no more than 200 on any exam. With a school beauty like Camila, there seemed to be no way for us to intersect. Now, seeing Camila appear beside me, many people looked over with malicious intent. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Some things can't be explained. The more you explain, the more mistakes you make, so it's better to stay silent. The smile at the corner of Camila's mouth slowly faded. She flipped her hair, casually glanced at me. "Diego, has anyone ever told you, when it comes to relationships, you shouldn't just think about others' conditions?" Camila's voice was soft, but it concealed a hint of obvious sarcasm. Soon, her gaze fell on the paper lying on my desk. It was a math test paper. The bright red 17 stood out prominently. Camila scoffed. She lightly pulled the math paper from my hand. With a swish, she tore it up. The smile in Camila's eyes was still insatiable. She casually tossed the torn paper aside and continued with her unfinished thought. "You also need to see your own standing. Diego, this is my last warning. If you like me, you'd better not entertain any inappropriate thoughts." After a brief silence, the whole class burst into laughter. In the face of Camila's sharp words, my expression remained calm. I met her gaze and spoke slowly. "I don't like you, nor did I take your hairpin." Clearly, no one believed me, including Camila. She glanced at me dismissively and left the classroom just seconds before the teacher arrived. I bent down to pick up the torn test paper. After smoothing it out, I stuffed it into my folder. In response to Camila's provocation, I had no further reaction. With the college entrance exam approaching, I didn't want to waste time on things that didn't concern me. After evening self-study, I continued studying at my desk as usual. Others didn't understand why I worked so hard, even though I could only score 200. When the clock struck 11 at night, I finally started packing my bag. I didn't go home. Instead, I headed to the hospital near the city center. As I stood at the hospital entrance, I took a deep breath and called out to the system in my mind. It finally spoke leisurely. "Host, what can I do for you?" I rubbed my temples and directly asked how many points I needed to completely cure Luciana's illness. The system seemed to be calculating something. After a while, it told me I was getting close. Just keep scoring low, and you'll be able to cure Luciana before the college entrance exam. It encouraged me a few times. The tension in my nerves finally eased a bit. As long as Luciana could be cured, that was good. Luciana was my childhood sweetheart. Her grades were excellent, but after an accident, she became a vegetable. Luciana's parents had consulted numerous doctors and were left with no solutions for her. Since childhood, I had no friends. Luciana was the only one who had helped me when others bullied me. To me, she was different from everyone else. On my birthday, a system called Scores for Health approached me, telling me that as long as I deliberately scored low, it could convert the excess points into health value to help Luciana recover. I was skeptical at first, but after a few trial low scores, I found that Luciana really started to improve. Since then, I had kept my scores below 200. It sounded magical, but it was true. I tightened my grip on the hairpin and entered Luciana's hospital room. She lay there quietly with her eyes closed. I placed the hairpin beside her bed. This was the birthday gift I had prepared for Luciana. As I quietly watched her, the system reminded me, "Host, you need to work hard to cure Luciana before the college entrance exam." I knew what the system meant. It had agreed that on the day of the exam, regardless of whether Luciana had recovered, it would unbind from me. This was our countdown. I brushed Luciana's hair and softly spoke, "I will." The system was right. I really needed to put in more effort. The next day happened to be the English pre-exam test. The teachers graded quickly. During evening self-study, the class monitor suddenly asked me to go to the head teacher's office. I sighed. What was bound to come eventually did. This time, I only wrote one reading comprehension question on the exam, leaving everything else blank. Sure enough, as soon as I entered the office, the homeroom teacher slammed my English exam paper down in front of me. "Diego, I don't even want to scold you. You're like mud that can't be molded. With the college entrance exam coming up, you should at least finish the exam paper." The teacher looked frustrated. "I remember you did pretty well in the freshman entrance exam. How did you end up like this?" I kept my head down, quietly listening to her lecture. Before long, the teacher seemed at a loss for words and waved her hand as if to let me go. Just then, Camila entered the office with a stack of homework. She was bright and charming, and although she wasn't in our class, our homeroom teacher liked her quite a bit. Camila just happened to catch the phrase, "did pretty well in the entrance exam," and her eyes curved with a laugh as if she had heard a good joke. The entrance exam, that was ages ago. It just goes to show that a person's abilities can change. Don't you agree, Diego? Seeing her mocking gaze, I said nothing and simply left the office. As I brushed past Camila, I caught a glimpse of the English exam paper in her hands. She scored 130. That was no easy feat. It was indeed a high score. Noticing my attention on her paper, Camila straightened up, seemingly proud. The system couldn't hold back any longer and suddenly chimed in, asking if it was worth it to save Luciana. I had messed up my high school life, being mocked and belittled, and always facing setbacks. Listening to the system, my gaze fell outside the window. After a while, I spoke softly, "Let's just save her. I couldn't give up the chance for Luciana to live. That would be too cruel for her." Anyway, I was still studying hard. On the day of the college entrance exam, the system would unbind from me, and I needed to make the most of my time. I couldn't waste any opportunity to bring Luciana back to life. In the following mock exams, my scores kept dropping. Camila and many others were laughing at me. She even made a point of coming to our class to collect my exam papers, scoffing at the blank answers. "How can you not answer such simple questions? I really don't know how you're still in school, but it's okay, you won't be for long." Facing Camila's ridicule, the others thought it was just her humor. I didn't refute her words. On one hand, my scores were getting lower, while my error notebook was becoming thinner. In truth, these questions weren't difficult for me. In fact, I found them quite simple, but explaining this to Camila was pointless. In her eyes, I was just her worst suitor, but I didn't like her at all. I had two wishes. One was to get into the physics department at University A, and the other was to make Luciana better. I had once been extorted by street thugs, and it was Luciana who took my hand, pulled me out of the predicament, and put a band-aid on my wound, telling me it would stop hurting soon. She had always treated me well. Seeing the health value from the system rising higher, I knew Luciana was almost fully recovered. On the day of the college entrance exam, the system indeed unbound from me as promised. Unlike regular exams, the college entrance exam held great significance for me. For 2 whole days, I took the exam seriously. After finishing, I immediately went to the hospital to find Luciana. I wanted to know if Luciana had fully recovered, if she had any after effects. I didn't know how to find a second system to help her. With a heart full of anxiety, I arrived at the city hospital. Before reaching Luciana's room, I mentally prepared myself and finally pushed the door open. but at that moment, I heard a sharp voice. Diego, what are you doing here? It was Camila. She was accompanied by a few friends, holding a bag of medicine. Camila's voice was slightly nasally, as if she had a cold. She looked me up and down and raised an eyebrow. What? Finally planning to come to the hospital to treat your mental illness? Upon hearing Camila's words, her friends burst into laughter. I frowned. There were still quite a few people in the hospital corridor, and they were casting ambiguous glances at us. I lifted my head to look at her. Wanna make a bet? Camila seemed unsure of what I meant, crossing her arms and looking coldly at me. I continued. My college entrance exam score will definitely be higher than yours. At my words, Camila paused for a moment. After a beat, she burst into sharp laughter. Diego, I think you're really mentally ill. Camila laughed heartily. Her attitude was as I expected, but I just stared at her. Wanna make a bet? Camila laughed even more. Sure, if I lose, I'll apologize to you, but if you lose, you'll have to crawl around at the class reunion. How about that? Our class reunion was set for after the exam results came out. Camila was being intentional. She just wanted to see me make a fool of myself. Before I could respond, I felt someone hug my arm. A crisp voice chimed in. Hey, do you just think Diego is easy to bully? Why is it that you get to apologize, but Diego has to crawl around? No way. If you lose the bet, you have to do that too. My breath caught. That voice, I would never forget. I turned in surprise and saw Luciana standing next to me. She really had recovered. Luciana was looking at Camila with piercing eyes. I hope you've thought this through. Perhaps because she had been in the hospital for a long time. She looked much thinner, but still full of spirit. Luciana stared fiercely at Camila. Camila, taken aback, had never been spoken to like that before. Her expression turned ugly, but she still coldly nodded and then arrogantly proposed a new condition. If I didn't score higher than her, Luciana would have to kneel and apologize to her. I opened my mouth to stop Camila from putting Luciana in a tough spot, but Luciana nodded directly. Camila glared at us for a few seconds, then turned and left. The corridor suddenly fell silent. I looked excitedly at Luciana, momentarily at a loss for words. Unfortunately, Luciana had missed this year's college entrance exam, but she was very smart. I knew she had always wanted to get into the physics department at University A. Seeing me silent, Luciana chuckled, standing on tiptoe to pinch my face, saying I had lost so much weight, though she was the one who had lost a lot. Luciana seemed to think I had endured some great injustice. Even after 2 years of being a vegetable, the trust and understanding between us remained. Luciana didn't even know who Camila was, nor did she know about my past with Camila. Yet she stood up for me without hesitation. She wasn't afraid of my score being lower than Camila's. Luciana seemed to see through my thoughts, winking at me. It's okay. If your score isn't higher than hers, I'll just pretend we never made a bet. There are no witnesses. Can she really make me kneel and apologize? I laughed. The accumulated frustration of the past 2 years seemed to wash away a bit. In the following period, Luciana would need some rehabilitation. I stayed at the hospital with her every day. On the night the college entrance exam results were announced, as I was leaving the hospital, I ran into the triumphant Camila. She said she thought I would back out, so she wanted to watch me check my scores. I had no objections. As soon as it struck midnight, Camila eagerly checked my score. She refreshed the page several times. As I was nodding off with fatigue, Camila suddenly tossed my phone aside. Her expression turned from amused to skeptical. Diego, you didn't actually skip the exam, did you? I glanced down at my phone and saw a few zeros. Camila couldn't possibly not know that the top 50 scores in the province would be hidden. She just didn't believe I could actually score higher than her. She never believed I could surpass her. Deal's a deal. You. Before Camila could finish her sentence, my phone rang. Irritated, she hung up the call, but the phone continued to ring persistently. In her annoyance, Camila finally answered the call. After a brief greeting, she fell silent, because she had put it on speaker. The voice on the other end was from the admissions office of University A. Hello, this is the admissions office of University A. May I ask if you have any intention of coming to our school? Capitulo 3. Camila looked completely unconvinced. I took the phone and provided my exam number and name. They excitedly asked where I was and said they could come to find me soon. Throughout my entire conversation, Camila just stood there dumbfounded. She furrowed her brow, seemingly still not believing what was happening. When the admissions staff from University A finally arrived, Camila's expression completely changed. She looked incredulous that I could be the one the admissions staff was eager to meet. Camila's gaze toward me grew complicated. In her eyes, I was just a failed suitor. When the staff from University A arrived, it seemed like Camila wanted to leave. I wanted to ask about the physics department, so I didn't stop her. But at that moment, I saw Luciana. She had just come out of the hospital and grabbed Camila's arm. Luciana's tone was somewhat playful. Don't you remember what you bet? Need me to help jog your memory? Camila opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. She bit her lip and eventually turned to me to apologize. Luciana yawned. How come I remember the bet differently? Camila angrily shook off Luciana's grip, but Luciana wouldn't let go. In the end, Camila apologized to me with a choked voice. I was busy with my application matters, so I didn't pay any more attention to Camila. Besides, I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. But Camila escalated her antics. A few days later, when I arrived at the hospital, a nurse I knew rushed over, looking anxious, and told me that Camila had pushed Luciana down the stairs. Upon hearing this, I dashed upstairs. Why was Camila bothering Luciana again? As soon as I reached the 4th floor, I saw several nurses gathered around Luciana. Luciana's face was pale with pain, and her forehead was covered in sweat. The staircase was long. I couldn't bear to imagine how much it hurt when Luciana fell. Camila, however, showed no remorse and stood at the top of the stairs. In her hand, she clutched a light blue hairpin. I recognized it. It was the hairpin I had given to Luciana, and the one Camila had been accused of stealing. Seeing me approach, Camila immediately pointed at me and yelled, "You took my hairpin, and now you give it to someone else." To this day, Camila still believed this was her hairpin. I wasn't that kind of person. That hairpin was a gift for Luciana. After she became a vegetable, many people forgot her birthday, but I remembered. To me, Luciana had never been expendable. I looked at Camila, speaking each word clearly, apologized to Luciana. I had seen Camila lose her composure many times, but this time, her expression was one of complete bloodlessness. Camila lifted her chin, showing no intention of apologizing. She stubbornly insisted that the hairpin was hers. I suddenly felt exhausted. There was no reasoning with Camila. I should have known that from the start. Due to the push, Luciana had sustained a slight fracture in her leg. I demanded an apology, but Camila remained silent. At an impasse, I chose to call the police. In Camila's shocked gaze, I summoned the hospital security. In the past, I hadn't clearly communicated my principles, which had allowed Camila to bully me time and again. The police arrived quickly. Camila still wanted to defend herself, but I found it pointless. With the police's help, I retrieved the payment receipt for the hairpin I had bought years ago. It was a limited edition, so it wasn't hard to find. Camila seemed unable to believe that I had never taken her hairpin, and this proved that I had never had any feelings for Camila at all, no matter how others saw her. To me, she was just a troublemaker. Ever since Camila thought I liked her, she had done a series of foolish things, and it was time to put an end to it. I demanded that Camila never come near Luciana or me again. Camila didn't seem willing to agree, but with the police present, she eventually complied. She also paid for all of Luciana's medical expenses. After Camila left, I went to Luciana's hospital room. She had just recovered and was back in bed again. I whispered an apology. I initially thought Luciana wouldn't hear me, but I heard her soft reply, "Idiot. The person who needs to apologize the least is you." Chapter 4. Not long after the summer vacation began, I received my admission notice from the physics department at Capital University. As the top student in the province, many classmates, upon hearing that I was first in the province, dismissed it as a coincidence of names. They didn't believe I could really get into Capital University. When they saw my name on the honor roll of our school, and even received several interviews, they finally panicked. Those who had bullied me before even started apologizing, claiming they didn't know any better. To their apologies, I remained indifferent. You were almost adults back then. You should have known what was right and wrong. Faced with my words, they fell silent. I knew that some of them genuinely felt their actions were wrong, but more of them just didn't expect my capabilities to be like this. I wouldn't accept their hypocritical apologies. Not a single one. Many came to apologize, except for Camila. She might have felt ashamed, or perhaps it was out of pride. In any case, she didn't bother me throughout the entire summer vacation. In fact, quite a few classmates began to speak up for me. They felt that Camila's behavior back then was bullying. I believed my relationship with Camila should end here. From the very beginning, it was her who suppressed and denied me. Camila's malice towards me was blatant and direct, impossible to ignore. Luciana also started studying high school courses, and as I expected, she learned quickly, preparing for next year's college entrance examination. On the day I reported to Capital University, Luciana had something to do and couldn't come to see me off. As I arrived at the entrance of Capital University, I unexpectedly saw someone. Camila. Seeing her made my eyelids twitch. Didn't we agree that there would be no further entanglements between us? What was Camila doing here? Perhaps she wasn't here to find me. I carried my luggage, planning to walk past her, but amidst the crowd, Camila spotted me immediately. Her expression suddenly brightened with surprise. As I passed by her, she reached out and grabbed the corner of my shirt. I knew that Camila's university wasn't here. Her presence in this action could only mean one thing. Camila had specifically come to find me. I waited for her to speak. I wanted to know what she was up to. Seeing that I didn't respond, Camila began to cry. Her next words caught me off guard. Through her tears, Camila told me that she had actually liked me for a long time. In fact, the incident with Luciana back then was closely related to her. Hearing this, I suddenly lowered my head to look at Camila. My voice began to tremble. What did you say? I had always thought that Camila and I had no connection, but I didn't expect that our paths had crossed as early as the first year of high school. Chapter 5. From Camila's account, I finally understood that she had noticed me since the first year of high school. She was used to being the best. During the entrance exam, she believed she would take first place, but she was mistaken. That time, I scored first. Camila unilaterally recognized me and began to study hard. Her goal was to defeat me once. However, gradually, her ambition was no longer satisfied with just that. Slowly, she vaguely learned about Luciana. Camila didn't know what it meant to like someone, but she felt unhappy seeing me with Luciana. It made her unwilling to accept that I had someone by my side. She attributed this feeling to a desire to win. In any case, since her family was well off, Camila found a few delinquents to intimidate Luciana. But Camila didn't expect that Luciana, blocked in an alley, wouldn't watch where she was going and ended up getting hit by a car when she ran out, suffering brain damage and becoming a vegetable. Of course, what she had done with those delinquents went undiscovered. Later, to save Luciana, my grades plummeted, and Camila finally got her wish of always being first. After I denied having feelings for her, Camila got angry. She couldn't accept that I treated her like a stranger. She was the one who ruined my stable life, yet she claimed to like me. Just thinking about what she did to Luciana ignited my anger. So, when Camila visited Luciana in the hospital, she knew who she was. That realization made me furious. After confessing everything, Camila seemed like she wanted to say more, but I shook off her hand. There was no longer any point in talking with Camila. You know you wasted 2 years of Luciana's life, right? I spoke slowly. If Luciana hadn't been indirectly harmed by her, she would probably already be in university like me. Not to mention, if I hadn't encountered that system where scores could be exchanged for health, Luciana would still most likely be a vegetable. Camila's eyes turned red. But, Diego, it's true that I like you. I'm sure I like you more than Luciana does. Hearing this, I silently glanced at Camila, feeling it was absurd. This was her idea of love. To constantly suppress me for her own selfish desires, was that her version of liking me? I looked into Camila's eyes. Camila, I'll say this one last time. There will be no relationship between us. If I ever find you around Luciana and me again, I won't forgive you. Moreover, she had done such things to Luciana. Camila confessing her actions was just an attempt to prove that this was her way of loving me. This kind of love was suffocating. Camila seemed unable to believe that I would just walk away from her and leave her behind. I was no longer the person she could bully. I would protect Luciana. Camila cried hysterically. Having led a charmed life, she probably didn't understand why I didn't like her. I didn't think her bullying and suppression constituted love, nor did I think I should like someone who constantly belittled me. Besides, Camila's affection was diluted. She didn't like the past me. She just wanted to win against me. Camila never understood what love really was. At the entrance of Capital University, amidst the bustling crowd, Camila was there, crying with her makeup running. But no one would comfort her anymore. More and more high school classmates believed that Camila had bullied me back then, and they no longer stood by her side. Meanwhile, I had chosen a major I loved and was embarking on a bright future. In that future, Camila would never be a part of it. After meeting Camila, I felt an inexplicable heaviness in my heart. Luciana always protected me, but today I realized she could be afraid too. What was Luciana thinking when she was chased by those delinquents and got into that accident? I didn't know. I only knew that my life, along with hers, had indeed been partially destroyed by Camila. After tidying up my dorm, I suddenly received a call from Luciana. The voice on the other end was somewhat noisy. I could only hear her breathing. After a moment, she spoke. Diego, look down. Feeling as if I sensed something, I rushed to the balcony. Luciana was standing at the base of the dormitory, smiling and waving at me. She was here. Luciana's leg hadn't fully healed. Her ankle was still in a cast, and she was using crutches. But Luciana had come to see me. Seeing her, I suddenly remembered Camila's words. Camila claimed she liked me more than Luciana did. I thought she was mistaken. All along, the one who bravely and persistently loved me was Luciana. At least, in the future, I would ensure that Luciana wouldn't face the misfortunes of the past. She wouldn't be pushed down a flight of stairs again. She wouldn't have to live in fear. Over the phone, I smiled. I'm coming down. After saying this, I went downstairs. Today, all the painful memories related to Camila left my life. I had Luciana now. Thank goodness, I had Luciana. Epilogue, Luciana's perspective. Diego probably wouldn't know that after the accident, I gained the ability to read minds. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. Even when I was in a vegetative state, I could hear the thoughts of those around me, especially Diego's. I knew he had bound himself to a system. As long as he intentionally scored low, I would slowly recover. I knew everything. Even though binding this system didn't bring him any tangible benefits, he still chose to do so. He must care about me. I hadn't initially known that Camila was the one who indirectly harmed me, until I read her thoughts. She not only bullied Diego but also me. Now, I wouldn't let her bully Diego or me any longer. I hated Camila, but I didn't want to waste my life hating her. I wanted to live well, especially alongside Diego. There are so many things in this world more important than hating her. On the day Diego started at Capital University, I went there. His dormitory was on the 4th floor. Before long, Diego ran downstairs. I heard his heartbeat and his thoughts. I really like Luciana. I pressed my lips together to stifle a smile. Yeah, I like him a lot too. Later, I also got into Capital University and became Diego's junior. On the first day of school, I insisted that Diego help me carry my luggage. It was a hot day, and I bought a newspaper to fan myself. This lowbrow paper served no purpose other than to provide a breeze. But as I was about to throw it away, I noticed some information tucked inside. The Sioux Group was undergoing bankruptcy proceedings. I paused, glanced at the information, and suddenly realized this was Camila's family. All the things she had once taken pride in seemed to have vanished with time. Whether it was her background or everything she once boasted about, she didn't understand what love was. Nor did she understand respect. What fate had bestowed upon her was now being reclaimed by fate. I tossed the newspaper into the trash. Diego was busy deciding what to treat me to. I linked my arm through his. Just take me to eat what you like, senior. He ruffled my hair. It's boyfriend. Hearing Diego's voice, I smiled. A few days ago, we officially established our relationship. The misfortunes of the past would now be far behind us. No more accidents or systems from the past. The system and mind reading seemed more like gifts from heaven for us to grow closer. In the future, I would continue to love Diego,